as much as mass deportation sounds unpleasant, right now it's polling at 53%
Yeah.
with Hispanics in Arizona, not overall, with Hispanics. So I think there's some real support for this. And the time to do it is right away, because that's when you have the political capital.
Donald Trump has officially clinched Arizona, the final state to be called in the election, giving Trump a clean sweep on all 7 swing states. Now, the president-elect has been game planning in his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, considering appointments to his cabinet and his first moves when he takes office in January. And one of his top priorities will be to crack down on illegal immigration.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered, and we will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail or kick them the hell out of our country, and fast.
The former head of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, Tom Homan, is tipped to lead this effort. Well, joining us now is Greg Swenson, chair of Republicans Overseas. Greg, welcome back.
Great to be here, Alex.
Greg, what's this going to look like, this biggest deportation of illegal immigrants? I mean, the numbers have been debated over and over. Some say it's 10 million. Some say it could be as high as 20 million.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big concern, is the optics. I mean, it's a massive project. And, it's just, in many ways, we can choose who to blame. Obviously, 10 million of those came in just in the last 3.5 years under Biden and Harris. So, it's a problem nobody wants and nobody wanted. And unfortunately, it has to be dealt with. So, this could, I hope that it's just done, in a very constructive way. Start with the criminals, start with the convicted. There's 13,000 convicted homicide criminals, felons that snuck through the border just in this term, in Biden-Harris term. You've got 18,000 convicted sex offenders. So I think you start there, and that one will have, broad support.
So are you talking about people who are currently in jail?
No, they either are in jail or they were convicted of these crimes when in their country of origin.
Right.
And so, and then there's of course, those on the terrorist list as well. So, you've got to, I think if you start there, the optics will be better than just, rounding up every illegal migrant you could find. Mm-hmm. I don't think, I think that we have to be careful of that. And I think this is, ultimately the right thing to do, as unpleasant as it is. But these people have all committed crimes by entering the country, and hopefully we can, also at the same time fix the problem, which I'm sure Trump will do on day one. The problem being more illegal migration.
Sure. Practically speaking, Greg, it seems like we'll need some more detail. And also, how much is this going to cost?
Well, yeah, it's two great questions. I don't know, and I don't know, but I think we have to keep in mind that the cost of keeping them it could be significant as well, because we're paying for the most part, we're paying for the taxpayers paying for housing and other costs, and so that has to be considered. And also, look, the Biden-Harris administration spent a pile of money relocating the illegal migrants into cities around the country. It's not just the border states, so that was a cost too. So we know it can be done for a reasonable cost, because they've already done it in terms of relocating these migrants to different cities, and especially the sanctuary cities, but not only sanctuary cities. I mean, you saw Springfield, Ohio, for example. So, we've already seen a mass distribution of these poor people by the Biden-Harris administration. So we just have to replicate it going the other way, as unpleasant as that is. And the other, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what can you tell us about the man who's going to be in charge of this? It's tipped to be Tom Homan, formerly in charge of ICE. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's sort of trying to be, strict and obey the law. And that's kind of, that's all you can ask. I mean, he's not a high profile guy. He's not, this is not, Mike Pompeo or Nikki Haley. He sort of flew under the radar. But when you think about the outcomes of the Trump years, whether it's because of Tom or anybody else, they did shut down the border. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but they had illegal migration reduced to the lowest level in generations. and down to 400,000 a year, and immediately jumped to 1.8 million. And that's just not tenable. And the other thing I'll add, Alexis, is again, as much as mass deportation sounds unpleasant, right now it's polling at 53% with Hispanics in Arizona, not overall, with Hispanics. So I think there's some real support for this, and the time to do it is right away, because that's when you have the political capital.
Do we know, Greg, at all, the contribution that illegal immigration makes to the US economy? Because all those people, whether there's 10 million, 20 million, they're not in the US doing nothing. They are working, and they are working for small and large businesses in the US. If you take that workforce away, do we know what impact that's going to have?
Yeah, I think in many ways it might be easier if they are truly seeking asylum for the right reasons and they have jobs. It might be easier to let a significant portion of them stay. Right. Now, in a perfect world, you would have them go through the process properly. And I think what happens is the illegal migrants that are working in the low-skilled jobs, they're pushing people who are here legally potentially out of those jobs. They're lowering wages because you can pay them virtually nothing. It's a little bit of an internal conflict between the employers, these the sort of traditional Republican employers that kind of like it. They like cheap labor, and I think they you have to, even though they're useful in terms of creating more productivity because they're employed. That's something that we of course should want. But again, we want legal migrants. We want to free up room for HB1 visas, which are the visas for high skilled and the engineering types. So I think this is something, again, like I hope they do it in a very deliberate way, not just everybody, but right now is the time to do it. Listen, I mean, Trump polled, he beat Kamala on the issue of the economy by 24 points, according to, in the election day. He beat Kamala by 77 points on immigration. Yeah. So obviously there's support for Trump on this.
Undoubtedly. Look, last question, Greg. We are going to see various appointments happen. The person that we do know is going to be closely connected to the Trump administration is one Elon Musk. Whether he takes up an official job, whether that's possible with him running Tesla and SpaceX, that all remains to be seen. Yeah. How do you see this relationship going forward? We do know that both Elon Musk and Donald Trump have big egos. They like the limelight. Do you think there is enough space for both of them in one administration?
It's a great question. I have a smile on my face because it's so hard to predict. Remember, Elon's only been on the sort of Trump bandwagon since July. It was the day after the assassination attempt that he endorsed him. And so, I think that's a good question. I agree. It might not be possible for him to have a cabinet position because of his time, first of all, and also be hard for him to unwind out of his massive portfolio. And that's always difficult for wealthy people when they join the administration. But it remains to be seen. I think he's going to be a great asset. Obviously, he's a brilliant guy, and the federal bureaucracy absolutely needs fixing and has to be cleaned up. And if he's the guy to do it, that's fantastic.
Okay. Greg, I'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much as ever
Great
for joining us. Greg Swenson
there,
chair of Republicans overseas.